Hello everyone and welcome to another fly tying session here from Nordic Anglers. My name is Daniel and today we're gonna tie a big pike fly. We're gonna tie it on an Arik swim bait hook, which is has a lot of great how do you say that? Some of the properties about this hook makes it great for and ideal for a lot of fishing, especially for fishing really deep on sinking lines and stuff, because the hook point will always be upwards. So we're gonna tie one of these swim bait flies today, but we're gonna use some different materials, and we're gonna use than what people normally use. We're gonna use a lot of ostrich, which is a very durable feather, but that has a lot of life. And basically the color scheme here is around black, which is one of my all-time favorite colors for pike. But then we've added a lot of red because red is awesome. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of different things. It's the bleeding eel. So it's a bit themed like the eel, one of my most productive patterns, but here with some red hues and some bleeding aspects to it. Basically, that's it. Now we're gonna tie the fly. Pike fly. Woo! I just had a hook, and as always, I tend to, cut myself on these swim bait hooks, but I like the swim bait hook regardless. They are really nice for hooking and for making sure that your fly fishes upside down. So and they're easy to use as well. So basically, just add some tying thread to the straight portion of the hook here, and the first thing we need is some bucktail, and bucktail is getting harder and harder to come by. So it's one of those things. I talked to my supplier, and he could only guarantee me some on this order. So the bucktail I have now is probably all the bucktail I'm gonna get this year. So if you're low, and also the price on bucktail has almost doubled. So if you're low on bucktail and you're gonna use some this year, then I would recommend that you go and get some, because the supply is gonna be really poor. Is at least what all the distributors are forecasting. So basically I use a few loose turns of the tying thread to tie this down, and then further down along the hook shank I'm gonna apply more and more pressure to make sure it stays in place. But I want this first bundle here to be pointing backwards and to be not really I want it to be an evenly distributed and not that wide a bundle of bucktail, because basically it's going to be the core of the fly. So it's gonna help me get the right profile of the fly. And if I apply too much pressure way down on the first turns of the tying thread, then the bucktail is gonna really stand out and give the fly a broader profile, which is not what I want for this part of the body anyway. Then we're gonna use some ostrich. And ostrich is quite cool because it's one of the most lively materials, and also it's fairly long. At least I have some really long bucktail in the shop. This is a whole feather. We sell these as XXL bucktail, and then what you get is half a feather. But there is an enormous amount of material on these, and they are really awesome for pike flies because they add a lot of life to the fly. But also these feathers are more durable than one would expect, so they can last for a lot of pikes, without being torn or destroyed. Basically, I take a bundle of the ostrich here, maybe 4 or 5 centimeters of width of feathers on the feather, and then basically just tie these down here. So the bucktail will help stabilize and keep the ostrich in line. Then we need to add a bit of contrast. We need some brown big fly fiber. If you have black, you can use black as well. But I like that this gives a bit of contrast to the rest of the black on this fly here. Basically, just again tie this in around here, so you have some space up towards the eye, and then just apply some pressure, cut away all the excess materials. I mean, this is a pike fly, you have a lot of space, and we're gonna have to fill the fish skull anyway, so it's better with flies like this, with pike flies, to basically just apply a lot of fresh pressure and a lot of tying thread to make sure that your fly is strong and durable, more than actually how many turns of this and what that's gonna look like. I think this is a bit long for me, so I'm basically gonna cut this a bit down. And now we need to add the flesh. And since this is called bleeding, what did we name it again?
Bleeding black.
Bleeding black? No.
Black and bleeding.
Black and bleeding. Yeah, black and bleeding. Then of course we need some red flesh to indicate that this fly has been bleeding. I'm just gonna take these and pull them in, so they're in different lengths to work differently out in the water. Tie this on top here. There we go. Again, just apply some tying thread. There we go. I like this red flesh. It looks really awesome. I'm gonna turn the flesh around, so instead of cutting it off, we might as well just use it to make the fly a bit more shiny. That's okay. We don't have any weight on this, and if you want, you can of course basically add some weight in the form of a rattle, or you could basically also use a bead of some sort. But we're gonna use this in the May fishing here in Denmark, and in the summer fishing, and so we don't need all of that. There we go. We're gonna add the second bundle of bucktail, again to give it a bit more volume, and to make sure that the materials we're gonna use for the head is gonna be distributed correctly and give the right shape to the fly. So this time I'm gonna apply a lot of pressure, and I'm gonna tie the bucktail fairly close to the eye, maybe 4 or 5 millimeters from. And directly as soon as I tie this on, I'm gonna apply pressure, and this will make the bucktail stand a lot more out. You see, and this will ensure that the rest of the fly, the stuff I'm gonna use for the head, is gonna have the right shape. So basically, the bucktail here, the function of the bucktail is to ensure that the finishing touch of the fly is gonna have a broader profile and move more water up in the head part of the fly here. There we go. We cut away some of the stuff, not all of it, but we got some of it at least. There we go. Now we need some of this new streamer head dubbing, which is basically some really cool fibers for making heads on big flies like this one. And basically what this is, you can use it as dubbing as well, but it's really long fiber. It has a lot of lot of fibers in here that are fluorescent, and to ensure, and there's some flash in there as well, and to ensure that everything is placed correctly, I'm just gonna pull on some of this and then add it back to the bundle, to the mix here, so I have not have anything that is. We could comb it as well if we wanted to. That would give kind of the same effect, to make sure that everything is, yeah, there we go. And then basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to even it out between my fingers, and then I'm gonna tie it down here. So it's gonna be all the way around the hook, very close to the eye. And this is gonna give the first part of the head. And then I'm gonna take a second bundle of the ostrich. That was not the one I used before. This one. And again, not many, maybe 4 or 5 centimeters of the ostrich. Something like this. These I'm gonna try to, again, make them go all the way around. Yeah, I gotta stung myself on the hook. There we go. Get them to be as much as possible all the way around the hook before you apply pressure. Gonna cut away as many of these ends of the ostrich as I can. Not gonna cut them all the way. That's not necessary, but just fairly close to where you tied them down. Use a bit more tying thread, a lot more pressure, then some whip finish. And this is easier to do by hand unless you have a really big whip finish. If you want, you could apply some Sabagap to the nut here as well. Basically, I'm just gonna add a bit of it. There we go. That's gonna make this fly indestructible. So we have all of this that is pointing forward, and that is by design, because now we're gonna take one of the fish masks, and I like the 8mm, 8.5mm, and that is a reference to the eye size. But I like that for a pattern of for this size of hook. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn all of the materials that are pointing forward. And I'm gonna force it backwards. And then we're gonna see with my mask here how this is gonna look. There we go. I'm gonna force it a bit back, a bit more back. There we go. Then I'm gonna take my Sabagap. Hold everything back, and then I'm just gonna douse this with Sabagap. Just pour a lot of Sabagap on here. This will ensure that the fly is gonna be really strong and durable. It's also going to close so there is no air holes inside the head here. And it's going to keep my fish skull in place. There we go. Now the only thing we need to do is to take a bit more Sabagap, place some in both of the sockets for the eye, and then take a couple of eyes, and you can use silver or gold or opal or whatever. I had some lifelike eyes in silver that I thought would look pretty nice on this. A red one would probably have, but I like something that is a contrast to the rest of the pattern. So I used the silver, and basically here you have a fairly simple fly. Not that not that many different materials, and basically just a really fly that hovers very intensely in the water. It looks absolutely amazing. It's easy to fish on a sinking line really close to the bottom if you want that as well, because of the hook is pointing upwards, and it just produces a lot of fish because it's so lively. It hovers so great in the water when you stop retrieving, and well, basically there you have it. This is the done bleeding eel. I'm really pleased with the result. When we make this video just now, in my time at least, I don't know when you're gonna watch this, of course, on YouTube, but when we're making this video, this is the fly I'm gonna use in exactly a week, because that's the opening time for the Danish pikes. And this is gonna be my first fly on my leader on the opening day. I really like how this turned out. I haven't caught a fish on this yet, but probably by the time you watch this, the start of the pike season has come and gone, and then I'm very sure that I've caught a lot of pike on this. I really like how it turned out. It turned out exactly how I imagined it would. That's how a lot of my flies just come into being, is basically I sit down and then have some ideas and bring a bunch of different materials on the table, and then just start tying, and then things just turn out the way they do. But I like that creative process, and this is one example of that. You can as always buy the full material kit and all other fly tying materials you could ever need on Nordic Anglers, my webshop. And it would mean a lot to us, and to me in particular, if you would swing by Nordic Anglers to see our selection, and perhaps there was a thing or two that you decided you wanted to buy from us, and that would mean a lot. That is the way and the reason why we are able to do these videos, is basically because people buy stuff from us, and that pay our our wages, right, Stephen?
It does.
So basically that's it. Support us if you like. That would mean a lot. Either way, I wish you all the best of luck out on the water, and thank you for watching.